Hello, Pisces. Welcome to Leo season. This is a reading for any Pisces identified folks out there. Pisces Sun, Rising, and Moon. Welcome. If you have other Pisces placements that you want to listen in. This message is for you as well. I'm going to be offering a general channeled reading at first. This message is timeless in a lot of ways. Whenever you happen to come across it, it is the right time. And then in the second part of the reading, I will get into Leo season and be thinking specifically about timing for this span of days that extends between July 22nd and August 22nd in 2024. All right, let's get going. Leo is an interesting energy for you, Pisces. It's not always an easy energy. It lives in the part of your chart that some astrologers will say you have an aversion to, or it's hard to see. It also lives in a part of your chart that is considered to be both an unfortunate part of the chart and a laborious part of the chart. But I also tend to give a little side eye to a lot of the traditional interpretations because I think that they're coming from a place that has some expectation that life is always easy and that certain notions of like ease or ambition are always what kind of honestly supremacist patriarchal view would want, because astrology, like many things, like many philosophies, has been written in accordance with certain contributing factors to the status quo that are not necessarily helpful for all of us at all times. So I'm going to say that this part in your chart called the solar sixth house is definitely a place where labor is required. This is a place in your chart where you have to show up for the work of it. And the work of it is going to show up for you, whether or not you have put it on your schedule. This is a place in your chart where we find information about your general well-being. That includes your mental, physical, emotional, psychic, psychological, spiritual, relational, and environmental well-being. As you know, there is a lot that you can do to care for your own well-being, and there are a lot of factors that are totally out of your control. And this is a place where astrology will often show us what we are not in control of. And that's a lot out there. And so we do have to work. We do have to labor in order to meet the unexpected and the challenges and that which kind of causes duress or suffering in our lives. And in order to meet those challenges skillfully, it really helps us to spend time reflecting on a deeper sense of purpose and cultivating attitudes of devotion and practices of discipline. And devotion and discipline are words that I think can get thrown around a lot in various ways. The way that I mean them right now, and I think or I feel that they are more generous and generative, have to do with aligning ourselves with some larger source of energy and continuity. There's a feeling in this part of your chart that you find support when you connect your will with the divine will. There is a very deep need in this part of the chart to know that you are of service to something that is bigger than you. And when you practice humility and a kind of release of ego and a genuine offering to what that bigger than you-ness is, then there are actually a lot of benefits that come through this part of the chart. And the benefits that come through here have to do with personal agency, capacity, resilience, and fortitude and strength. Also, a sense of service. Being part of something bigger is its own reward. Over the course of Leo season, this place in your chart is packed. There is a feeling for me as I tune in with your chart that you have a lot that you want to be doing right now. You have a lot that you need to be doing, and a lot that you need, a lot of what you need to do, because Leo is here, has to do with actually tending to your vital energy. Pisces, more than any other sign in the zodiac, is often represented as porous or permeable kind of substance. And it is very easy for Piscean individuals to kind of like leak energy and also absorb the environmental energy that's around them. And so I think a lot of you over the course of Leo season really want to be tending to your own vitality and energy. First and foremost, this looks to me like taking care of your heart. I mean that literally and also towards the heart as kind of a metaphor. So, on a literal level, I'm going to say that right now you will be well served by eating well and staying hydrated, making sure that you have enough iron and that you are getting all of your essential minerals and vitamins, or as many of them as you can. I'm also going to say that this is a period of time that you really benefit from some kind of cardiovascular exercise and movement that gets your blood circulating through your body. And you will benefit even more if that exercise is joyful. So I work with a lot of people who like, they do certain kinds of exercises and they're like, I think this is supposed to be good for me. Why do I feel so bad after? And I'll talk to them about their experience, and it's like drudgery. It's like, oh, I'm running 3 miles a day because I know it's good for me, but I actually fucking hate running. That's not going to actually be good for you. If you hate running, don't run. Leo, as an energetic principle, loves to dance. Pisces, as an energetic principle, needs to dance. There's a kind of loss of self that can come with dancing and expansiveness into the great oneness that Pisces definitely wants and needs. The placement of Leo in your solar sixth house speaks to this really specifically, that to care for yourself is to care for your heart, and to care for your heart is to care for relationship and continuity with the pervasive interconnecting is that surrounds you in all directions. Nothing does that better, in my personal opinion, than dancing, making music, making love, praying, and again, involving yourself in some kind of selfless service where you are really giving of your heart. You're showing up because you are joyful to be part of something that's bigger than you. So that's where we get to your heart as a metaphor. There's the organ in your body that needs very specific kinds of care. It needs you to work skillfully with your circulation, your vascular system. It needs you to watch your cholesterol and your salt intake, things like that. And then there's your heart as a metaphor, your heart as the center of your love nature, your heart as the locus of your personal vitality and sense of expressive self. And over the course of Leo season, and whenever you're working with Leo energy, it really benefits you from or by expressing yourself in joyful ways. So again, dancing, art making, creativity, singing, making music. What are your favorite ways to access joy? I know that the world is bringing all kinds of worlding right now, and there are a lot of reasons to feel all kinds of things other than joy. It is essential, Pisces, that you make time and space to remember joy, to practice joy, and to practice joy with others right now. That will help sustain you through everything else that is happening. And it will also be such a gift to what is bigger than you, your community, and the environment around you. Throughout Leo season, you are also really working to tap into your connections with this bigger than you space. The bigger than you space could be environmental. I think a lot of people are remembering that environmental intelligence surrounds them. There are so many opportunities to feel a deep sense of belonging and communion by tuning in with the natural world and feeling the ways that you are part of it and it is part of you. The breath in your lungs has moved through countless plants and trees. It has traveled up to the clouds, and the clouds have contained the water that is in your body, that has also moved through every other body on Earth that has existed here since Earth came into its own existence or started to create life. Thinking poetically about interconnection right now is another way to serve and support your vitality. Poetry, poetics, allowing your imagination to expand and support you in feeling connected, super beneficial for your well-being. I'll also say that spiritual practice can be so important and helpful for Pisces. Spiritual practice does not have to be religious practice. You can be an agnostic, atheist spiritualist. You can be a person who believes in magic and doesn't necessarily believe in any particular kind of God, but to really bring yourself to places of worship, whatever that looks like for you, places where you can sense sacred energy and divine energy in yourself, in others, and in the world around you is so beneficial, not just for you, but for everything and everyone around you, particularly if you're practicing forms of spirituality that are inclusive and that are encompassing of yourself in your full spectrum of potentiality. So again, we're done with like religious training that tells people that they're sinners. Everyone has potential for all kinds of energetic manifestation. Those potentials are natural. How we work with them is our sacred responsibility. And there are reasons, causes, and conditions for all kinds of things that we're feeling. When we regard ourselves as inherently divine and sacred, we connect ourselves with the God force that runs through everything. When we give ourselves messaging that we are wrong or bad or sinners or something like that, all we do is mire ourselves in shame. So if you happen to be a Pisces that has some kind of internalized narratives around like being a bad person for some reason or another, or being inherently flawed or something like that, first of all, hey, welcome to the human condition, particularly at this moment. Something I struggle with a lot is my own internalized depression. But also, wow, Leo season is a period of time that is asking you to really work with those energies, heal them, cleanse them, detox from them, and fill your body, mind, and consciousness with awareness of interpermeating sacredness that you are a part of. Finally, energy is everywhere. And if you're trying to connect with what is bigger than you, you might just spend some time learning about energetic principles. This could be through the realms of energy medicine and energy healing. Maybe you're a person who's into quantum mechanics and you want to learn about how energy works here on Earth. Maybe you're interested in astrology and you want to play around with astral and planetary energy. There are a lot of different ways to think about energy. What just popped into my head is the work of like the Heart Math Institute that looks at the energetic frequencies of the heart and of relationship and communion. And I feel like that type of work would be especially helpful for you right now, even just to read about it or watch a video on YouTube. It doesn't have to be super deep. Giving yourself these kinds of impulses for imagination are enough, I think, at the moment to help you vitalize and regenerate in the ways that it feels like your chart is asking for. Your imagination and your intuition are also wonderful access points for spirituality, for energy work, and for being part of and remembering how you're part of what is bigger than you. So any exercises, again, that stimulate your creativity, that spark your inspiration, or that get your imagination going are something to invest in for Leo season. Over the course of Leo season, we are headed into a period of time that begins this July, but extends through next June. So pretty much 11 months. And I'm going to say that this cycle is a collective cycle and one that is bringing a fair amount of confusion into the collective space. And the thing about confusion is that ultimately confusion is clarifying. So it's a kind of funny thing that way. Like we can feel confused about something, and in the space of feeling confused, it's legitimately confusing. But when we're confused, what a lot of us do is orient. And oftentimes confusion arises when we need to reorient. And there's a kind of vibe right now in the atmosphere, I don't know if you've noticed, that needs to reorient around attention and intelligence and consciousness. There's a lot of confusion swirling around the space. People are confused about what is real. There's tons of misinformation. There's a lot of weaponization of information that is being used to intentionally instigate reactivity in people, anxiety, fear, extremism. Those states, in their own way, support consumerism. And my personal opinion, a lot of folks who are working the mechanisms of the consumer wheels right now really know that when people are worked up in certain ways, they're more likely to consume without discernment, and particularly to consume things that either pacify them, like, I don't know, cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, movies, media, self-improvement types of things, or ammunition, guns, a lot of money being made right now by the military machine. I digress. That's not actually the bandstand I want to be on right now. I said it. I'm going to leave it. There's a lot of confusion in the atmosphere right now. Pisces, I feel like you, more than any other sign, are really sensing how you need to orient and reorient to ground yourself in this moment of confusion. Pisces is an interesting energy because, when you read about your sign, you'll read that sometimes confusion is like a key word for Pisces. Pisces, as an elemental quality, is the element of movable water. This is fog and mist, right? So if we think about feeling foggy, that's another way to describe feeling confused. And in some ways, that's like Pisces' home state. And I really want to elevate that because I think that there's a way that the Piscean intelligence knows that everything is an illusion on some level. And sometimes y'all are confused because people are out here acting like things are real when they're not. And you're like, but what's going on? And you're tuned into certain frequencies that are a lot more subtle, that are a lot more energetic. And that can be confusing when you're trying to navigate consensus reality and the status quo. Pisces as an energetic frequency is highly imaginative, very creative, deeply intuitive, and very, very, very tapped into the spiritual and the subtle realms. You may or may not identify with that personally. There are a lot of ways that Pisces takes shape in the chart, but I'm guessing that in certain aspects of your being, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So there's a way that right now, you've actually arrived at the perfect moment for the moment that's unfolding, because it's almost like as there's so much confusion in the collective atmosphere, it is forcing you to consolidate around your own being and get really clear about your own stability, your goals, and your intentions. From this July through next June, a lot of you are in a space where you are reconfiguring the foundations of your life in some kind of way. This could look like moving or changing your house around or looking for different places to live or people to live with. This could look like a mental or conceptual process that has to do with your stabilizing factors, what helps you feel solid, stable, grounded, etc. There might be important conversations that you need to have with people who are somehow involved with you through the realms of home and family that help you clarify your own intention, your own beingness. This is definitely a time that could increase a sense of personal confusion, but again, confusion leads to clarity. Over the next 11 months, a lot of you are reworking very important foundational principles in your life so that you can reform and regroup in your sense of personality and identity, also in your body, in the ways that you feel yourself as a solid, stable form here in your corporeal existence. And certain things kind of need to fall apart at the moment, again, so that they can come back together in some new way. All right, so let's take a look at Leo season from beginning to end. We're going to follow the lunar cycle because we begin and end pretty much with full moons. Hours before Leo season begins, we have a full moon in Capricorn. This is the second full moon that we've had in Capricorn over the last season with Cancer. And that's rare. That does not happen frequently. And this particular full moon, I feel like, is bringing kind of messages of culmination forward. There's a feeling of finishing certain projects or experiences. In your chart, I'm feeling that there is a departure on a social level for you. There may have been a group of friends that you've been part of for a while that you're just not really feeling like you're gelling these days. I mentioned things that are shifting in home and family areas. Some of you might be moving, or there might be some kind of change at home or with your family that means that you are no longer in proximity with the same people, and your social landscape is changing. There are also some themes coming up here about you transitioning from a space where you were thinking that your future would look a certain way, and either you have achieved your aims now and you're ready for a new chapter, or some of you are feeling like your aims have shifted and you no longer have the same goals or intentions as you did before. This is leading you into a need to really kind of go within. And the first week of Leo season, from the 22nd through the 29th, is definitely a week that is asking you to attend to your inner energy. There's a lot of internal sorting out that you're wanting to do right now. And this sense of process and labor is really coming in right now when it comes to your sense of self and selfness. You want to be able to journal, to dream, to talk with trusted friends and maybe a therapist if you have one. This is a really good time for you to be really trying to listen to your inner voice and what is going on in your inner dialogues, and notice where your language is helpful or hindering to your own energy. I want to encourage you to tell yourself stories that appreciate your process. I think a lot of you might have a certain amount of anticipation as you are moving towards these next steps or next chapters that are opening. And what my hope is for you is that in this moment, you can really appreciate where you've come from. You can look back at choices you've made, the ways that you've been through whatever you've been through. You can recognize where you were in learning curves and doing your best. You can recognize where failures have actually been successes, because as you experienced those situations, you were learning, and now you're integrating that information, you're moving on, and you will be more coherent and resilient for that. The second phase of the lunar cycle, from the 29th through the 4th of August, puts a lot of focus for you on communication. This is a period of time where it feels important that you are attending to the tasks of communication. I think that many of you have maybe like a fair amount of administrative work that you're doing right now, or it feels like you're trying to parse through information. There might be a lot of sorting that's happening for you, is the feeling that I'm getting. I think that you're trying to manage your mind going in multiple different directions, potentially because you have so many things that you're trying to give attention to or manage. During this time, it is really helpful for you to step away for 10 minutes and dance. It is really helpful for you to begin and end your days with mindfulness practice, conscious breathing, or meditation. It is really helpful for you to attend generously to your heart space and to love yourself in this moment of having your attention go in multiple different directions. It is really helpful for you to connect with joy and beauty and abundance and laughter wherever you can and as often as you can. In this week, it also feels to me like a lot of you are kind of consolidating your resources. The sense that I have is that you want to know what you have. This could have to do with material resources and finances, to be sure. But there's also an element here of needing to like hone in on what your skills are. What do you have to give? What do you know that you have capacity for? Where do you know your strengths and talents are? And also, where do you know that you have challenges? It may be a time that you're thinking about how to strengthen your areas of weakness. I want to say that this is a period of time that you benefit more from focusing on your strengths than on your weaknesses. This goes along with me encouraging you to use positive language with yourself and affirm your heart energy. Love the being that lives in here. This is a very sacred, precious being. You are one of a kind. And like all of us, there are so many ages that live inside your body. There's the baby you, the little kid you, the teenage you, and all the various layers of adulting you. And each of those different layers of your body and experience actually need your attention and your energy as we go through this period of time. I want to say, especially your inner child needs your attention and your energy. And you can give your inner child energy and attention by noticing like when you have needs that are coming up. So if you're feeling frustrated with adulting, I mean, who's not, right? Like, ugh, what a drag. If you're feeling frustrated with adulting, pay attention to the part of you that is like so fucking bored and doesn't want to be doing that, and give yourself a 10-minute dance break or go eat a popsicle or something like that. Don't try to just like barrel through it right now. You really need to be consciously attending to your vitality, your joy, and your heart energy, regardless of how many like boring or frustrating or honestly hard things that you might be trying to do. The day of the new moon on August 4th, Mercury is stationing retrograde in your opposite sign, Virgo. Mercury will move from Virgo back into the late degrees of Leo, where it stations direct on August 28th. So over the course of the 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde, many of you are working out important contractual agreements. These are agreements that definitely could be with other people. They might have to do with jobs. There could be contracts that you are making with yourself right now. So I talked about this being a really good time to attend to your well-being. I want to say that this is a great time for cleansing of all kinds for you. Maybe you want to make an agreement with yourself that you're going to cut out a bad habit. You might even consider like writing a contract with yourself. But these 3 weeks need some space and time for negotiating what the agreements are. For those of you that are encountering situations coming up with significant others, with partners of all kinds, this is definitely a period of time that is asking for patience and process. You want to be able to show up for the details that need you to show up for them. It can be somewhat tedious, but making sure that you are not missing things now will save you a lot of trouble later. So it is super worth it to move slowly. I also want to say that Mercury retrograde periods are sometimes periods of time where we realize that we forgot to do something before. And so there may be something that needs to actually get cleared up with a contract that you've already made. This is for sure a time of adjustments on multiple levels. I also want to say that some of you are making new deals and making new agreements with partners. And these don't necessarily need to be written contracts. They could be verbal agreements. They could be even like subtle agreements where you feel that your energy is starting to do something together, and maybe it's doing something different, or maybe it's deepening, or maybe it's parting. But during this time, there is a kind of back and forth between the area of focus and the kind of partnership or the relationship, and a sense of personal desire and capacity, and a real kind of awareness around needs. I'm going to say that for you right now, Pisces, you really need to be paying attention to your needs for vitality. It is So important right now that you are investing in what gives you energy and what serves to generate and regenerate you energetically. That could mean a whole lot of things, so make the meaning that's meaningful for you. In the week after the new moon, from August 4th through August 12th, this is the first week of Mercury retrograde. The feeling that I have is that there is like a need to actually slow down a lot during this week. You are going through kind of a deep process right now. And I think a lot of you are doing some inner work. You might have kind of like psychological revelations coming up at this time. It is a very powerful and potent time to be having important conversations, particularly with significant others. That includes spouses, partners, business partners, and collaborators. It also includes parents and children, potentially people who are in your family, particularly when it comes to issues of like shared resources and how you might be negotiating like co-ownership or things like that. Again, make the meaning that's meaningful for you. The 12th through the 19th is the first quarter to the full moon. And then we have 3 more days of Leo season. So we're going to talk about a span of 10 days right now from August 12th through the 22nd. In every single one of the year ahead readings that I did for 2024, if you haven't listened to yours, by the way, you can always find it. Those readings are discounted now. They give you a big, broad picture for 2024. And in the collective reading that I did for 2024, which you can find on YouTube, I spoke about this week as being a moment when the volume gets turned up and things really get hot. This is a week of increasing intensification in the astrology of the year. And 2024 already has been intense on multiple levels for multiple reasons. We are living through a period of time that is profoundly intense. In the intensity and the confusion of this moment, there is a lot that is transforming. Things are not as they seem. There is a lot that's happening in the more surface levels of like pop culture and media that will only show you small pieces, small curated, manipulated pieces of news. We are not getting the full breadth and picture of what is happening in the body politic and the consciousness of people at this time. Basically, what we're getting is hyperbole and polls and things like that. I personally have never been polled for anything. I don't know if you have been, but often when I read the polls about things, I'm like, who are they asking? Because the people that I talk to often have like very different experiences and very different ideas than what I'm reading, X percentage of like Americans think about X, Y, or Z. Anyway, digression. Coming back to the present moment, the 12th through the 22nd of August is a really intense period of time. In your chart, particularly, this feels like an intense moment because we have the first of 3 hard aspects forming between the planets Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn is currently in your sign, Pisces, and Jupiter is transiting the root of your chart, your fellow mutable sign, Gemini. 3 times in the next year, these planets will square each other. So the first time happens the day of the full moon, August 19th. We're going to get another square on Christmas Eve, December 24th this year. And the final square will be next June, the 14th of June. At that point, both planets will have moved into the next signs. They're going to be finishing the cycle with each other in the signs of Aries and Cancer. And at that point, we have the beginning of formation of some kind of big collective new chapter. I talked a lot about this in my 2024 overview for the collective. Again, you can find that on YouTube. But between now and then, and I'll say that particular finalizing aspect between these 2 planets doesn't really take root. Like that's the last aspect, but that new chapter doesn't really begin until 2026. So the next year and a half, there are a lot of things in flux, and particularly the next 11 months. And I'm going to say that especially around this full moon, because it is the first time this aspect is perfecting, I really want to give you a heads up. I want you to be prepared for it. And I'm going to say that the week leading up to that full moon, Pisces, please take care of yourself. If there was ever a week to do your mind-body practices, to breathe, to work your circulation, to connect with the source of your highest inspiration, to really remember joy and to connect in joyful ways with community, this is the week to do that. There are a lot of potentials in this aspect for everyone, not just for Pisces, to feel totally nuts. This could be really disturbing on so many levels. I'm not trying to make a negative prediction. Everything, not everything, but a lot of what's happening in, again, the news, our political landscape, climate change, there's so much that is really profoundly and deeply disturbing. A lot of things being brought to consciousness that folks maybe were not aware of before, or are gaining new levels of awareness with, that are really profoundly disturbing. In this period of time, there is disturbance, and with disturbance, we also have an unlocking of creative potentiality. My stance on this is that this period of chaos is a liberating period. We can work creatively through these times to reimagine and reconfigure ourselves. And the more that we participate in the collective moment of change, the more hope we have for a beautiful, vibrant future where beings on Earth are thriving in harmony and joy together. I'm holding that vision in my head and in my heart. I invite you to hold it with me. I think a lot of people are holding that vision right now. I do believe that there is a big progressive wave that is sweeping across the planet, and that despite all appearances of ongoing endless war and catastrophe, I think the people are recognizing that we actually have the power. And I think a lot of people are really interested in learning to work with and wield that power in new and very different ways. So how do we work with and wield our power? A big place of potential change lies in our solidarity and collaboration with one another. Learning to navigate rupture and repair. Learning to be in challenging situations without resorting to reactivity and violence and judgment and closing ourselves off from one another. Cultivating capacity for deep listening. Building consciousness, raising our vibration and potential for perspective leads us to so much change. There are 3 key words that I've been offering to folks in the horoscopes for working with this cycle, and I'm about to share them with you. These words are adaptability, preparation, and perspective. All of these words are important to meditate with. Make the meaning that's meaningful for you. They might not be the best words for you. Feel free to change them around. Adaptability is a strength of Pisces. Pisces is the kind of water that moves. It's considered to be mutable water. Adaptability is mutation. It is the ability to adapt to meet our changing circumstances. We are in a moment where we need to prepare. How do we prepare for what we don't know is coming? None of us really know. We might have our own predictions, but there are so many different things happening from so many different directions. How they converge and collide is up to the great mystery. The great mystery has a pretty solid sense of drama and humor, and more than a couple tricks up its proverbial sleeve. I think that it serves us very well to know that we don't know and to prepare for not knowing what's on the next side. So how do we prepare the best? We prepare ourselves internally. absolutely get your go bags ready, prepare for, environmental disaster and all that kind of thing. But if that's the only way that you're focusing on preparation, that's going to bring you into preparedness for fear and defensiveness and a kind of survival that I don't know is necessarily about thriving. If you prepare yourself internally, part of that preparation is letting go of attachment of a perfect outcome. It is preparing to meet people, meet others in moments of profound intensity with an open heart. One thing about intensity is that it really leads people to a precipice of their own potentiality. And you hear this from people all the time who go through intense circumstances together, that they never realized how special other people were or how much capacity they had to love. Communities come together in really powerful ways when the comforts that we have that often keep us separate are no longer there. We don't necessarily need disasters to help us come together. We can do that work on our own. So there is an element of preparation here that has to do with the internal readiness to respond, as well as the relational readiness to support. I think that a lot of you right now are really wanting to prepare in both ways. It is super important for you, Pisces, that you are preparing on the inside. This means working with your heart energy. It means working with your own frequency and vibration and energetic impact in ways that allow you to regulate yourself and co-regulate with others. I think it's also very important for you that you are building networks of solidarity and community care. More than any other chart right now, Pisces is speaking to me for the need for networks of community care. Your sign is one that is so invested in practices of care. And I can't emphasize enough that I feel that you have potential for leadership in this realm in your immediate community and family. This is definitely a period of time when you might want to be having conversations with people about what happens if, how do we support each other moving through these times of instability? And beyond the practical logistics and emergency plans and community preparedness strategies, all of those are super helpful. I'm going to say that practices like deep listening, radical honesty, and joy practices together build communal glue. And that's going to be absolutely essential for whatever it is that is coming next. You want to feel that you have friends that you can count on, you have solid companions who you trust. And as a lot of you are navigating significant changes in relational agreements, again, Mercury retrograde is working in a part of your chart that has you fine-tuning and finessing how you want to be in contractual arrangement with other people. Definitely think about other kinds of agreements that you can be making, places where you can strengthen pre-existing bonds, and areas where you can reach out, make new connections, spark new conversations. Definitely places where you can reach across the divide of differences. People are constantly surprised that they can get along with folks who have radically different ideologies. All it takes is listening skills for both people and mutual curiosity. Sometimes we're not actually as different as we think we are. And a lot of people have very firmly entrenched beliefs that are founded on absolutely nothing but ignorance. And when they are able to expand their perspective, learn some new things, have conversations, travel, experience something else, then they shift their stance. This is a time when we are all being called to engage in ways that do not further divide and separate us, but help us come together in mutuality, solidarity, reciprocity, and some type of, it doesn't have to be the same goals, but shared intention. Intention is served when we are adaptable. So this idea of shared intention is also an idea that none of us really know what's going to be happening. And the more that we can adapt with one another, the more likely we are to realize our intentions. So the capacity to be changeable in ourselves, to hear other people's opinions and perspectives without immediately solidifying in what we think is absolutely true. That doesn't mean that we have to be wobbly or fickle. It doesn't mean that we can't know what we know or believe what we believe. It just means that there are probably more sides to an experience than we have personally experienced, and giving space to listen and process and connect beyond difference with shared humanity, with shared need. Getting curious about what happened to people, how did they get to the place that they are, trying to unpack belief systems, things like that. Tenuous work, often really frustrating, not always fruitful. I'm not going to say that every curious conversation is going to lead to an outcome of mutual understanding. It's definitely not that easy, but we have to practice. And this is a time when we are being asked to practice new ways of coming together, being in community, and building our social skills. Radical authenticity and honesty is definitely required right now. That includes with ourselves. We need to know when we are being reactive, when we're responding from places of fear, judgment, hatred, etc. We need to be willing to look at those parts of ourselves, and we need to be willing to speak our truth, to let other people know where we experience them doing harm, being out of step, whatever. Okay, I've talked enough. So Pisces, prepare yourself for the last 10 days of Leo season. And if you prepare really well, maybe nothing at all will happen. And you'll be like, oh my God, Renee, I totally stressed out for no reason. So don't prepare for the worst. Prepare for an energetic opening. There is a full moon on August 19th in Aquarius. That's the sign that comes right before yours. This full moon illuminates the place of your psyche and unconscious. There is so much that's moving in the collective atmosphere, and the aspects that are happening on this day are asking you to deal with the variables and really work with your own ideas and intentionality. Please prepare yourself for the best possible outcomes. Prepare yourself by focusing in your heart, dancing, cultivating joy, and really working on communion and connection, again, with the bigger than you realms. Where Aquarius is in the Pisces solar chart totally connects you in with what is bigger than you. Some of the best ways to access that energy are through prayer, through intuition, through divination, through communion with the natural world. That includes your body, heart, and spirit. Pisces, please prepare yourself for the best possible outcomes, which are the outcomes of your expanded heart and increased capacity for love. Stick with me for a couple minutes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's coming up with Embodied Astrology. I'm going to use this to also share a couple more things about your chart. At Embodied Astrology, we're astrologers, so we are working with cyclical time. And the way that we are planning our events has to do with the current moment. So hopefully we're right on time and we have something to offer you in everything that I just talked about. Every Monday morning, you can join me on Zoom in Somatic Space. That is a drop-in class. You can also get a membership. If you become a member, you'll get access to my monthly tea time spaces. Somatic Space is an opportunity to come practice mind-body coherence and energetic expansion. We do a lot of listening to our heart energy and communing with the unseen realms because we're always working with astral influences. We take the astrology of the week ahead and turn it into a somatic score. These scores include guided meditation, visualization, breath work, and gentle healing, and often creative, fun, adaptable movement practices. There are also conversation spaces at the end. The group that has been forming over the last year and a half in Somatic Space since I started it is a lovely group for those of you that are looking to build connections with other soulful, spiritual folks who really want to tap in and connect with their heart energy. This is a great place to do that. Again, you can drop in one time. just try it out. You can get the recording if the time doesn't work for you. And if you become a member, then you'll get access to tea time. And once a month, every season, we gather for a tea time conversation where we sip tea and talk about the astro tea. What's up in the stars? How's it moving through your life? What are you noticing? This is a really fun place to learn and practice astrology in a very low pressure kind of way. All levels of astrology experience are invited. Wonderful place to ask questions, get to know your chart, and again, get to know some really wonderful people. On August 3rd, which is the day before the Leo new moon, I'm going to be joining Gabs 404 in the Nebula Lab. Gabs is hosting Nebula Lab with Embodied Astrology this year. This is a place where they are exploring the intersections between visual culture and world making and astrology. They're looking specifically at the influence of Neptune in Pisces. So I spoke to you about Saturn in your sign. I may have mentioned Neptune. I can't remember right now. Neptune and Saturn are both currently transiting Pisces, and they are moving towards a conjunction with one another. They will form this conjunction at the very first degree of Aries. But over the next year and a half, they're finishing up their time in Pisces. These influences are clearly something that you want to pay attention to. They are both really significant planetary symbols, and they're in your sign, and they are moving towards one another. Gabs is specifically working with this aspect to explore previous transits of Neptune through Pisces and the way that Neptune in its transits and discovery works with a kind of unfolding collective dream. Some of the symbolism, or a lot of the symbolism with Neptune, has to do with a dreamlike nature of reality, with art, with imagination, and with the ways that we collectively dream our existence and imagine our existence together. In the Nebula Lab, we're also dreaming what could be and cultivating practices that can help us influence reality through storytelling and creating visual culture. On August 3rd, I'm going to be giving a presentation on Neptune in the natal chart. So this is an opportunity for you to learn about how Neptune is configured in your own chart and how you can tap into this influence for your own reasons. You don't need to know anything about astrology to attend, and you can also catch the recording if you can't make it live. A couple of weeks later, on August 18th, our faculty member, Sherry Taylor, will be beginning a 3-part devotional cycle. This unfolds over the course of 3 events, August 18th through September 29th. And her focus for this devotional cycle, Saturn in Pisces. If you have not encountered Sherry yet, I cannot encourage you enough to check out her offerings with Embodied Astrology. She's been working with us for 2 years now, focusing on Saturn's transit through Pisces. Saturn is often representative of a kind of like dry, crusty, crabby energy that only brings obstacles and hardships into your life. But Saturn in mythology actually tracks back to the original creators of civilization, to beings that were trickster beings, highly creative sea goats, beings that are queer, non-binary, and also very deeply feminine. Sherry is working to recover and reclaim the femme faces of Saturn, working specifically with the archetypes of the bone mothers and grandmothers of time. Saturn is also such an important energy in the chart because in a lot of ways, it is the ruler of the birth chart itself. Saturn talks to us about coming into formation and making form out of our lives. On August 18th, Sherry will be joined by Renee, who is an astrologer specializing in vocational astrology. If you are in a moment in your life where you're looking for a little bit of support and guidance on your path or with your purpose, this would be an awesome workshop for you to drop in with. Sherry will pick it up from there, and over the course of the next 2 sessions, continue to fine-tune and refine devotional practices that serve your path and purpose, working with Saturn in Pisces. If you're going to do any workshop that Embodied Astrology is offering right now, choose one of Sherry's workshops. You can get recordings of her previous sessions for this series. She also did a whole series last year called Gravity and Grace, where she was working with Saturn and Pisces. I promise you, Pisces, you are going to find support in her work. Sherry is a grief doula, a death doula, a grief mentor, a clinical psychologist, and a really good researcher. She is amazingly fascinated and curious and dives really deep into mythology and archetype and does such profound work with weaving and reweaving these mythic archetypal symbolisms and helping us connect to them in ways that are so creative and generative. This would be the one. If you're going to choose one, come to one of Sherry's offerings. But definitely, if you can come to more on August 20th. Junauda Petrus, an award-winning author and playwright and all-around wonderful human being, leads a monthly space at Embodied Astrology called Artistic Alchemy. Every month, Junauda hangs out with the full moon polarity energy. So this month, she's working with the Leo-Aquarius axis, and she's offering creative practices and prompts to help us tune in with our own inner artistry. You can bring your own art projects or creative projects if you want to the space. There's a lot of support for people who are working on creative manifestation. You can also show up to meditate on your life as art and get a lot of support for that, thinking about how to live creatively in times of deep instability and also abundant beauty. Finally, I want to invite you to come hang out with me in person, off the internet, and in the mountains in October. October 24th through the 27th, I'll be co-facilitating a weekend-long retreat with Ramon and Michelle Gabrieloff Parish. Some of you might know Ramon through his work at Embodied Astrology. He's been a guest presenter with us for, I think, over 4 years now. Michelle has joined him several times. They've been on the podcast. They are two of my favorite human beings. I think that they're both so smart, so fun, so creative. They are longtime activists and organizers in the realms of food and environmental justice. They bring the work of spirituality and somatics into community preparedness and organizing. A lot of what we're going to be doing at this particular workshop is really intentionally preparing ourselves for whatever's coming next on a big picture scale. That includes our personal lives, our relationships. It definitely includes how we are bringing ourselves into society and culture. We are going to be practicing astrology. We're going to have a lot of time outside on the land and in the mountains. We're going to be working with design thinking and strategy and all kinds of good stuff. You can find more information on everything that I just mentioned and more at embodiedastrology.com or in the show notes. Please also follow us on our social media channels. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and anywhere you can stream your podcasts at Embodied Astrology. Pisces, I'm wishing you all the best in Leo season. Take care of that big, beautiful heart of yours. Until soon, bye for now.